With two of the three men in a room, as they say, fighting to stay out of prison, there are renewed calls for ethics reform in Albany. But Andrew Cuomo doesn't seem too optimistic. Now, here is what the governor had to say in his own voice after the Silver verdict when pressed about reform. He said it was futile. Quote, "If a person's going to break the law, the person is going to break the law," end quote. Governor also had this to say about the possibility of switching to a full-time legislature and limiting outside income. Quote, "There is no appetite to do it in the legislature." But someone right here at our table has an appetite, seemingly to do just that. Senator Carlucci is proposing a package that includes the following. We'll do these each individually, but here's the macro. Banning outside income, pension forfeiture if convicted, and campaign finance reform. All right, let's say outside income. And first off, from your two windows, from when you first got in and now when you're there, as I understand it, only 1/3 of the folks, at least as I understand this in the assembly, I assume it would be similar, actually do have outside jobs where they're bringing in income. But that number, was it almost reversed when you first went to Albany?
You've used language imprecisely, Richard.
Earned income and outside income. Go ahead.
Outside income and outside employment are two different things. Almost every member of the legislature has outside income. Some have jobs. What my distinguished and well-intentioned friend is trying to do. He's right.
Hug and slug.
He's right. Is to ban outside employment. In other words, if you're an insurance agent, you can't work as an insurance agent.
Yeah.
If you own the insurance agency, you can do that. I don't think that makes a lot of sense.
Well, what I'm looking to do is do what other states and what the federal Congress already does. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, look at the problems that are going on. It's constantly, where do we draw the line and where are those conflicts? That's the problem. Ban outside employment, have the legislators focus on their job. Representing over 300,000 constituents, I don't see how you do that part-time. Since I've been in the Senate, I've had to vote on over 7,000 bills. You don't just show up and vote. If you want to do it well, you have to do the research. You have to talk to people.
But let me just remind the audience and I'll do the dirty work for you guys so you don't have to say it. The state legislature was intended, when created, to be a part-time job, that you guys would go up there for a day a week or something else. Now, it's at least 3 to 4 days a week sometimes. Forget about all the campaign-related events. And in your case, you got to schlep up to Albany. You got to go back down to Rockland County. Some people even with longer treks, whether it be western New York or in the southern part of the city. That said, don't you have to, if you're going to limit what they can make on the outside, don't you also have to increase the pay?
Well, I think what we need to do is have an outside commission, take the job of setting the salary outside the hands of the legislature, have it done by an outside commission to do that. Don't allow lawmakers to vote on their own salary. We've got to bring this into the 21st century. To think that we're just going to stand behind what was done in the 1700s and it's going to work out fine in 2015 is a fantasy. We've got to step up and we've got to attack these problems where they exist. And one of the most blatant things is this conflict of interest.
The idea that Sheldon Silver is going to be an attorney 1 day a week and magically his clients wouldn't have interest before
you start
the
to
state.
ask the question, how did you get that contract? Why are they paying you? And where do you draw that line is such a problem. I think the only way you can really deal with it, and we've got to be dramatic.
Yep.
We've got to take dramatic action.
I want to get to a lot here, but here's my question to you guys. Politically, I figured, wrongly, for the governor who campaigned on all this, and I'm not naive to how the things have changed, but he campaigned on it. He's being tarred with this too, I don't think unfairly at all. He has a window to get through whatever the heck he wants because no lawmaker is going to want to vote no on reform, or so I thought. Obviously, the governor has read this differently, and he's not going down this road. Am I the only one surprised that the governor is not saying, this is my chance to be the great...
right now by he's not touching any of this. He needs to get through his own battle, and God knows what's going to happen with that. But he's not. No, this is what he did. He tried to, come in as the white knight and propose all these reforms and look like the good guy, and then was being the bad guy behind the scenes. So he's not going to go out on a limb and try to ruffle any feathers when the U.S. attorney is
own ethical
breathing.
issues if Prepohara starts ramping it up, or if there's another
They're
Moreland
looking.
commissioner?
They're investigating him right now over the Buffalo Billion. They're still investigating Moreland. I mean, this is not by any stretch over. One thing I would add, I think a lot of great reforms you proposed, but why not term limits? I mean, so much of the problems you're seeing is because people that have been up there for so long, they were supposed to be originally citizen legislators, and you know what? Why not let fresh faces come in? Someone like you never would have had that chance if, God forbid, you know, unfortunately, Senator Moran passed away. But
if we do term limits, but we don't change the system, you have the same people in there just for a shorter period of time. You cycle through.
But you have less opportunity to become, you know, part of the system and corrupted by the system.
One of the things that we've been able to do is to push forward term limits for leadership. So the chairs would move over. One thing that is a big problem when you have the Speaker of the House for 20 years, that becomes too much power, and that's where we definitely need term limits. And I think that's something that we could get most people to agree on. But term limits without these fundamental changes, like pension forfeiture.
Well, let's get to that one and I'll give you the courageous position to take, because frankly nobody else that I know thinks when Shelley Silver, through a jury of his peers, was convicted of serious charges and could be looking at very serious time here if you believe the guidelines. Why should he, if he violated the public trust, still be eligible to collect his pension, or for that matter, anyone attached to him still be able to collect his pension?
Because compassion has a role in punishment. And if the desire here is to destroy a family as well as the criminal.
It's not to destroy a family. It can be argued as to reward someone for ill-gotten gains.
How are they going to live?
Should the family of a bank robber get to keep the money that the bank robber stole?
No, if he stole the pension money, then the answer is no. But no one's saying he stole the pension money. You know, I am in this untenable position of arguing the compassionate response to crime. He ought to be punished. He ought to go to jail, and he ought to suffer financial penalties. They have to be proportional to the crime.
But the pension he earned during that time was...
He did some wonderful things during that time.
But he was also doing a lot of unethical things, so you could argue that it could be part of
and there's
stolen
a balance to be struck between, and you know, I keep reading the religious text. They always say compassion has to be part of it. Not in the chattering, not in the chattering class, at any rate.
By the way, he comes in and out of the media when he wants to.
If you're misusing your office, you need to be stripped of those benefits. And that's what's so aggravating to people. How do we ask the public have faith in the system when you have a corrupt politician sitting behind bars collecting a taxpayer-funded pension? It's wrong.
Would that really be an effective deterrent for the people that you're serving?
I think it's one component, right? So that's the thing, right? It'll punish the people that have committed the crime. That's one thing. But we really have to focus on that. That's just we need to do that. Strip the pension of corrupt voters.
Just kill them.
And then,
but then that'll solve a lot of problems.
Richard.
You're functionally making it impossible for a family to function, except
Why?
possible. There's plenty of people in our communities that don't get a pension.
Richard.
A pension is a
That's taxpayers' money. That's
and I think that's what infuriates people.
When you're all finished yelling at me, let me know. I am not
you shrinking violet. Go ahead. Yeah.
I am not for excusing this. I am not for mild punishment. I'm for severe, proportional punishment that recognizes that in these cases, these guys did a lot of good.
Okay, I'm going to steal Andrew's question. Do you have gradations? What if Montserrat, for example, didn't just slap around his wife here, but what if he killed her? Is there a distinction to the crime? Does the crime have whether or not you'll ever get...
Yes, those things matter. And that's my point. The notion that you have
I would agree with that. It's misusing your office.
He's very good.
Or
He's
any
very
felony.
articulate. He's got his hand on the pulse. That's what a good public servant
What
does.
a smart man.
He's filling time.
Wait a
So
minute.
here, let me get the
But
last
he's
one.
flat out wrong.
Okay, the hardest thing to explain to the public, even though he made a passionate defense, the public's with you on that one. Campaign finance reform. We hear
There's some
all the
simple
words.
things we can
What
do.
does it really mean to make
I think
a
there's some
difference?
simple things we can do. Right now, there's campaign contribution limits on someone that wants to donate to my campaign. However, if an LLC wants to make contributions to a party, or if anybody wants to make a contribution to a housekeeping account of the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, it's unlimited. And then they funnel the money to candidates or whatever they want to do. What we need to
Give a practical example, and you don't even have to throw a name in there. how that perverts the system.
Well, it perverts the system because if someone says, okay, well, we're trying to keep tabs on it, you can only contribute $10,300 to a Senate candidate. Okay, but then you contribute $1 million to the political party, which then funnels it to the candidate. It's wrong.
But they
What
have
we need to do,
restrictions on what
what
they
we need to
can
do is
use
get
the money
rid of
on.
contributions from limited liability corporations, get rid of contributions completely from corporations, make it simple, like the
That's a
FEC.
First Amendment issue.
It's
It's
not.
been ruled
No,
at the
it's
Supreme
not.
Court. Yes, it
No,
has.
the
Why
FEC
does, and this is actually a point that we could really debate, why does a newspaper, which is a for-profit corporation, get to use their editorial page to make their opinions known, and a different for-profit corporation can't do the same thing? It's totally hypocritical.
But all we need to do is we make it individual. An individual can contribute, right? Just like they do if you're contributing to president. It's $2,600 if
But
you want to.
it's already been ruled at the Supreme
that a
Court
corporation
level.
is a
And they
human
do that.
being.
And
Right,
that's-
and that you have
we
that
can't
you
just throw
have
up our
that
hands.
First Amendment right.
The FEC, the Citizens United versus the FEC, should be overturned. I hope it is. But until that time, there are things we can do. We can say corporation contributions, no, in New York State. LLCs, no, in New York
Publicly
State.
funded elections.
And publicly funded elections,
Yeah,
we
but
should
look at all
do.
the
But we've got to
corruption
do
you
it right.
see in New York City with
I don't
that
think that's
too.
the answer to corruption. I
got
think it's the
Ralph,
answer to
put the
public
punctuation.
to
Nonsense.
participation.
No.
To
He's,
participation.
right. He's absolutely right about the legal stuff, and her protection of the legal corrupt system
It's not,
exposes
Richard.
the
So
arguments for what it is.
Would you do the same thing for the unions that get to have all their member
about this?
organizations commit?
Yes.
If you do that,
How about
okay,
this?
all right, then
All right?
fair enough. I think that's a
that
fair
change your mind?
discussion.
Yeah.
I do. I
Now
think it
just
has
wait
to
a
be
minute.
uniform.
We're
with
making
everyone.
progress
I
here.
No,
brokered
We
then
have-
LLC. If the unions have to do the same thing, then you can close the loophole. But you can't do it for some people
Okay.
and not others.
That's why I
And-
said
but-
LLCs
But
take
you'll
them out of politics in New York.
You'll support it if the unions are involved.
I think
included.
you can have that
I
discussion.
didn't ask.
Yeah, no, it has to be
go
on the
ahead,
table.
Andrew,
The
go ahead.
Democrats
I,
wouldn't even
just,
put
I know
that
that
on
we're
the
out of
table.
time, but I wanted to make sure that we thank the senator for being
Yes.
here for the conversation.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
All right. Only
A lot of work to do.
Yeah,
Hope you get it
absolutely.
done.
Just on
Yeah.
this
I mean,
panel.
and the LLC
Yeah,
was
kept
for
Richard in line, too.
businesses,
That was
not for
self-fulfilling.
Will
politics.
Hasty
All right.
let your bills through?
I hope so.
And the debate continues. We want you to get involved in our conversation. Head over to Facebook and Twitter and answer a question. Should Albany lawmakers convicted of crimes still get their pensions? Richard says yes. What says you? All right. Coming up next, Donald Trump. He is popping in the polls, not dropping, going the other way. But is his wallet going to take a hit as he continues to hit Muslims? Stay with us.